today I was thinking one of the great things we could talk about, we'll try to keep it to the hour and be done at 6:30 today, and then, or whatever time it is, time zone for you. But I'll talk a little bit and then open up to questions. But what I was thinking we could do today is talk about the art of pitching.
Oh, good.
And the, having your awesome log line, your elevator pitch, and your comparables. And I am going to show you some of my pitch decks. I can only show you the ones that are not being made because they're all confidential, but I'm going to show you older pitch decks so you guys can get an idea of what our pitch decks look like. Because no matter what, whether you're pitching to a studio or you're pitching in independent investors, you still have to pitch it. So it is so important how you frame, how you want them to see the movie. I use Switched a lot as an example because I think it is a great vehicle for this. Of like, the log line is, it's two girls in high school, one's the bully, one's the girl she bullies. The girl she bullies prays that the other girl would know what it's like to walk a day in her shoes, and they wake up switched, and they go on to find empathy and love and compassion for each other. It is Mean Girls meets Freaky Friday. So every time I went into a pitch, that's what I would say. And then I did the comparables and people were like, yep, I see it. Freaky Friday meets Mean Girls. So always being able to have two comparable movies that are successful and similar to your movie, so that people have a very, very clear idea of what kind of film you're making. And this kind of goes into like when you're writing a script. I don't even start a script until I know what the elevator pitch is. And if I can't get the elevator pitch, then something's not working. It's like what Blake Snyder says in Save the Cat. It's so true that if I can't do it in one line and I don't have a comparables, then I'm going to have trouble pitching it and making other people see the vision. Because we know a lot of independent private investors are not going to read the script. Many times maybe studios won't. They just want to hear the pitch. So that's really important. And I really think that Blake Snyder is very right about that. In the beginning of my career, I read his book, Save the Cat. And then I started living by it, and everything we were doing was working. And I was like, okay, this guy's on to something because it's working for us too. And just recently, all of our films have now recouped our investment, except for the one that just came out last year, which is amazing. Exactly. We have recouped everyone. I just saw my investor of two of my movies the other day and took her to coffee to thank her and said, you are 100% recouped. And so we're doing something right to be able to recoup the money. And it's because when you're also not only just, once you've made the movie, if you do it independently without the studio, all those marketing materials go to the distribution company and tells them how to market your movie, and along with that poster. So the art of pitching is so important. We talked about this a little bit when Kelly was talking about her pitch. Memorizing it, going in there ready. Like I can do all the log lines of my movies like that. I have Fake Friends Forever. I'm still memorizing. I'm still working on it. But if I was to go into a meeting, I would know that one like the back of my head. That's my new script I'm writing. It's called Fake Friends Forever, but I don't have the log line memorized yet. But our other film that we got greenlit really fast was the one that we just made called Identity Crisis. AKA now Dating a College Clone, which is about a shy science whiz in college who struggles with imposter syndrome and confidence. And she figures out how to clone herself and send her clone off to do all the things that she's afraid of, only to discover that God already created her the perfect version of herself. And she already had all the courage, she just needed to try. That's the log line. That was the pitch. And the poster we made was actually really awesome, but the company we're working with did go ahead and change the poster. So
is that on Tubi as well?
No, Identity Crisis is being sold at the moment. It's being pitched by our sales agent at the moment. So Identity Crisis, aka, that's why I can't even call it Dating a College Clone yet, because it's only going out for sale. So if it went to Netflix or Vertical Entertainment, or if it went to Vertical, they would just keep whatever we give them. That's like when you sell it to a distribution company, they would just use what we give them. But if we go to Netflix, there's a chance they could come back and say, we want the title to be My Secret Clone, the clone, so you never know. But the man who's advising us, I think he was absolutely right. This is where we're getting into that part of the industry where We can either be a bullhead and say, no, it's this title, it's this or nothing. The man that we have right now who's advising us and working with us has very successful man, sold tons of movies to Netflix, and we trust him that he understands how to sell this movie. And Identity Crisis, we get it, but he was like, I don't know if they'll get it, so let's just make it like The Kissing Booth, dating a college clone, which I didn't love because it's not about the boy dating the girl. It's about a girl who's struggling with herself. And the whole conflict in the movie is the two girls conflict with each other, which is your conflict with yourself. That's okay. The girls will get that when they watch the movie. So yeah, so let me show you a couple of our pitch decks that we have made in the past. Let me, because your pitch deck is so important for when you're sending it out to everybody. I mean, and we do different pitch decks, which I'm going to show you what I can show you. We have pitch decks. I think we have two per switch. One was more for investors and one was more for a studio when we had the investor. And it was more like, we have this that we have funding. We just want you to come in on the movie now and be our studio. So we have a couple different, you can make lots of different pitch decks. Some can just be about the money. Some can be about the creativity, like telling the story. So I'll show you guys first our pitch deck for Catching Faith 2, because to give you different ideas of what kinds of different pitch decks. This one was made by our executive producer, who's also our sales agent. It is not flashy, because later I'm going to show you a flashy one. This was also a sequel. So he is really going after money by saying, hey, we've already made a movie. I don't mind sharing this with you guys because the movie is out and it's done and you can see how much it costs. But this was, Ryan Keller helped us with this, our sales agent. He put this together to go after, to show it to investors. This is very legal stuff. He has a whole legal page so that they understand that. The overview, a purpose with how much we are raising for the money. The money we are raising $250,000. It tells you the team behind the movie, which is the team that made Catching Faith 1. And clearly the log lines there are target demographic, the team behind it. Then in here, we put the impact of the first movie so that investors could see, like, if you care about this stuff, this is us in Cuba. This is us visiting Cuba, where we did an entire movie tour for Catching Faith 1 and invited into churches and all these places in Cuba because the movie did extraordinary things. So we're like, do you want to be involved in a movie that goes all over the world and shares faith? So he put that in here. This is where you guys can see like how we structured the deal on Catching Faith 2. The investors will receive 100% recoupment plus an additional 15%, which changes. Some movies it's 20%. Premium of net, pro rata, para passu. Therefore, investors will receive an ongoing. Thereafter, investors receive 33% of the film. This gets a little bit into what we were talking about the other day, where it comes to like owning 100% of a pie. But then 33% of that pie is already gone. So you own, as a producer, what's left after 33%, and then what's left after anybody else who owns a piece of the pie. And every movie we have made has been different based on how much we are trying to raise and how much the risk is. So no, I know that we've done movies where people have recouped 20% of the back end. And then not 33% forever. So they own 30%, 33% of this film. And then we had a manager who handled all of, who would handle the funds for us, which we talked about, having an executive producer or a lawyer or somebody who handles all that for you guys. Okay. And then
really quick about, sorry, on the previous slide.
Yeah.
So 15%, yeah, it's normally 20%, and it's for the investor, and that comes in at like from the gross, like of all the distribution rights.
Mm-hmm.
So then when does that, like, how do you stop it so that when going forward, say 5-10 years down the road, there's some kind of new sale or there's I don't know, residuals or something, they're still not going to get the 15%. They're going to get 33.
Right. So so how it works is they get 100% recouped.
Right.
And then 15%, that's before any of the rest of us see anything. They
Right.
get that plus 15. Once their 15% plus their 100% is recouped, then it goes into a pool, a split pool, and they get 30%, and the filmmakers and other people on points get the other percentage. Does
Okay.
that make
So
sense?
if it was 20% of the gross, they probably would not get any points, right? Usually.
No, every investor on our movies has owned a piece of the pie
Okay.
forever. I
Okay.
mean, they own, because that's the whole point of investing. They want to see money. And what if, AMC bought Wish for Christmas a couple years later, they want a piece of that AMC money.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So I would say it would be really, I have not heard that you could get out of it without having an investor own a piece of the pie. Because that's not enough. 100% plus 15%. They want to
And
see it.
normally, Jenna, you're right, it is 120, but
It is usually
it
20.
doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. That Ryan structured this deal with 15%. I'm not sure why, but yep, you can. I mean, anyone can structure any deal any way you want it, but 20% is pretty normal. So then here it's just laying out how all the way this works. See, this is what thank goodness for Ryan Keller. How the investors, where the money goes. And then we have a cast list. Now, this cast list isn't a dream. A lot of times you'll do a cast list, which I'll show you on another movie where you're doing a dream cast list. This is saying we are going to bring back the actors from the first movie. We also found out we didn't think we could get Billingville. Well, RLJ releasing was like, if you don't have Billingville, we're not buying the movie. So we had to get some extra money just to pay Billingville. And we had to do a pay or play for him to come back because actors are smart. They know that you need them for the sequel. But we got Bill back, which was good. Otherwise the deal would have been dead without Billingville. And then the team, which is us, our team that made all these movies. And then here is the budget. He gave them the budget. So this is an example of the budget that we put into the pitch deck. He was very thorough with this. Sometimes people don't put budgets into a pitch deck, but clearly Ryan did. So, and then sales projection, which is really good if you have someone on your team who can do a sales projection. I just saw one for my new movie from the producers or from the executive producer. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. We've never had that kind of a foreign sales projection. So
how do you come up with those numbers?
Well, this one's coming off of Catching Faith 1. So he's pulling off of our first movie, but I think they just go and look into the market of what this type movie made overseas, depending on what talent you have. I'd be really interested also to learn a little bit. I've never had somebody who's done the foreign sales projections on our movies because Faith does not sell a lot overseas. But our next movie is really Faith light, mostly not. It's clean, but so we can sell it overseas. So, and then
Question about overseas sales, Faith.
Mhm.
So did Ryan look at the Latin markets which I think of typically being very Catholic and into?
Yep. We sell the biggest sales for Faith are Latin America. We always get in a Latin America deal. Australia, South Africa. Those are the tops that we always get. France, no. Germany, I think we got a Germany deal for Catching Faith. I think the football helped us a lot with that. We ended up Wish for Christmas sold to a lot of countries that don't normally buy Faith because it was Christmas. So we got
translate into Spanish, or do you just listen?
What?
Do you guys have someone reproduce it in Spanish?
No, so we sell to the distribution company. We have never done worldwide distribution on any of our movies. We sell territories. So we sell to a distribution company in America. They handle all the US and Canada rights. Then we sell to a distribution company in Latin America. Then we sell to a distribution company in Australia. And then once you sell it, it's on them how they are going to do it. So our Latin America company, I think it's our two films. I'm trying to remember their name. I just forgot their name. I love them. They're great. They pay out of their pocket and dub it. Other countries, like some countries might not dub your voices. They'll just do a subtitle. So it is really exciting though when you get your movie and it's all dubbed by actors, but that's up to the distribution company. We do not do that on our end. That's part of the deal. Once they buy it, they do that. So I love it when I get to see it. All right. So that distribution of funds, investment received, make the movie, film the movie, finish the movie. It's great to have these deadlines. You need to have the deadline when you make the movie. Once the money is in the bank, like we say, we're off to the races. We're going to make this movie. We're going to finish this movie. And then because I had a sales agent on my team, he was like, it will be out for distribution by this month. Our team will deliver. And so if you do put something like this in your deck, you got to know you have the team, you can deliver, and then having a sales agent to take it out. That was a big part of my career, has been having that EP that was a sales agent. The investors felt really good knowing the sales is taking it to market. It doesn't mean they'll sell, but we know we have someone selling it. And then competitive edge. Okay. So this was Ryan showing them like how we make beautiful movies for no money. We're doing a sequel of a movie that already did well. We're, locations. We went to a small town where we got a lot of things. So he's kind of just showing that to them. I haven't looked at this deck in years. This movie's been out for a while now. So, and then it's funny because he has a lot of risk factors. He puts so many risk factors in the decks. I remember when I first read this, I was like, whoa, Ryan, that's a lot there are 5 pages of risk factors, which shows that he is really smart. He wants them to know that it is a risk when you invest in a movie. It is not a guarantee. And once the money is spent, it's gone. It's not a loan. You're giving it and we're hoping to get it back. So I think this was really interesting. He chose to put 4 risk factors in there, but when you're going after people, you don't want them to be mad at you later down the road. So be as honest as you can. That's why we go after impact money, because we say this is a mission and impact. It shouldn't be about you wanting to get your money. You want to get your money back, but it's really about, do you care about the project? And as you see in that, he's talking, the first movie did this, we hope to do that. So that was Catching Faith's 2 deck, very professionally done by a executive producer sales agent. So sorry, my cursor thing of you guys gets in the way of my trying to, okay. So then we had 2 pitch decks for Switched. By the way, you guys, I wanted to mention, we shot 2 movies for Switched. We did a faith version and a non-faith version, which was crazy when I look back at it, but we sold the non-faith-based version to a lot of great foreign places, like Fox Disney bought Switched in the Philippines. That was huge. So that was cool that we knew that there were countries that would not buy the faith version. So we thought the message was beautiful enough that we wanted girls to have it. So on set, we literally every time shot 2 versions, one where they prayed, one where they wished, one where we talked about God, one where we didn't. But let me tell you, it was a lot of work for post-production. And praise the Lord for our post team. But I don't know if next time they'd be like, I've added more to my salary to do 2 movies. It was a ton of work. You're editing 2 films. Then you're having to sound design 2, because anytime you make a change, everything has to be changed. But we do have 2 versions.
And you didn't have to shoot though every scene, right?
No,
you
no,
would just shoot them back to back a few places.
We would just do it right there. So she would be like, God, please make this girl know. Then we go, okay, do it again. I wish that she knew what it was like to walk a day in my shoes.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so we would just do it in the moment, and we would stop and say, we got to just do this quick other line. And we give the actor the line reading. And then we have an amazing editor who does special effects. So in the Bible study scene, she just removed the God stuff that's behind the girl. So anything like that, you know, it was really not, that movie wasn't wicked. I mean, we don't do faith heavy movies. We're not having people
Right.
convert in them. So it was, that movie was actually, Ryan said, we were filming the movie, and Ryan called me and said, if you can do this, it'll really help us with this film. So I literally on set sat there and was like, every day we have to do 2 versions. So it wasn't even a plan. It was like, what's up? I know you guys started filming. Can you do this? And we were like,
Wow.
yeah, let's try. So, I'll show you 2 of our pitch decks from Switched. One was made by a professional company called Epic Entertainment. This was after we had our investors brought onto the project, and we wanted to make a creative one. We were meeting with Lionsgate and some other companies. So we wanted to make a great, beautiful pitch deck that maybe the Lionsgate would want to come on to the movie, even though it was funded. And same with Hulu and everything. So this was more of a creative pitch deck to give people a feeling of the movie. You know what I mean? Not so much, you just saw one that was very technical. This is about money, and this is a much more fun pitch deck where it says, you know, we did win the Movie Guide Awards for Best Screenplay. So we were using that as an accolade to entice people. We put in the log line here, and then we put in our target audience. And and at the time we had made 4 films that had already done well. Competitive edge. And so this is where you're talking about where it will be competitive in the marketplace, because there's other movies like this. Again, talking about making it, that was the budget we were raising at the time. And then we put in our previous films on this pitch deck so they could see. Crazy. These were the only ones we had at the time. And then previous distribution, so they could see where our films went, how they sold. And then it's always good to show them your movies were in Walmart and Best Buy. Although this one was really more for studios. And then we talked about our companion materials, that all of our films come with the, you know, Bible studies. But anyway, it's just a good idea for you guys to see like what decks look like. And then media considerations, why we thought this movie would get a lot of press was because of anti-bullying, big topic always. And, you know, giving stats on how many people are bullied. Now here, it really is a potential cast. None of these people were casted. Chelsea was attached. Chelsea Crockett's a friend of mine, and she said yes to do the movie. Everyone else here is just us giving them an idea of who we could have casted. And then also, again, these people, love them. None of them ended up on the movie. And then we did a team page for the director and the producers, everybody. And then we gave them a timeline. So it's very clear that having a timeline is good to have in a pitch deck, a timeline of once you get the money, once you can make this, how long is it going to take, and when is it going to be out to market? And then our contact info, me and Nicole Weeder, who is my partner on this movie, that was done by a straight up amazing company called Epic Entertainment. That I normally personally in my own world cannot afford to hire them. This is
I was going to say, how much would they charge for that pitch deck?
Yeah, I don't know, because my investor paid for it. So I don't know, but I'm sure it's compared to what we get, it's a pretty penny. And you don't necessarily need that. I have a great pitch deck creator now. She does amazing work. She understands our brand. She gets our colors and our visual, and now our decks are amazing with her. And she doesn't charge us. She charges us like $500 a deck. So that's budgeted wise. So this is the one that we made for this ourselves. Which, I think we still used this a lot. This was literally made by our own team. And it's the same kind of information. It's just they spruced theirs up, made it more pretty. It's really like they just took all the words that we had already put into our deck and they made it really, really pretty. But see, it's pretty much everything we handed to them, which might have cut down the cost. They didn't have to write it from scratch. They just took what we wrote and then they made it really pretty. And then, yep, this is pretty much all the same information. And then at this point, we had a couple other people that we put in, but same actors. Yep. So really, they just took what we did and made a new one. And it honestly, I do think it looks good. And then I'm going to show you guys the new movie's pitch deck because that movie got funded. And
I
this
have a quick question.
yeah.
Is it a faux pas or illegal to put in images of movies, previous movies into your pitch deck, like to use Mean Girls, for example?
No, absolutely not. We use Mean Girls all the time. It's in one of our pitch decks right now.
Okay, cool.
No.
Use
You can
the
do anything
images,
you want. You're
the
not
images.
selling it. You're
Right.
not selling it. It's for private use. You're not making money off of it. You're not. No, I've never heard any. People put comparables all the time into their deck. Right now, we have a ton of posters in our decks as comparables that are other people's work. So, and you can use actors too. Yeah, I've never heard anything that isn't okay. But it's a great question. I think you can. You're not trying to sell that deck. You're not making money off of their image. So this was when we teamed up with Third Coast Content. This is the deck that they made that they took out to investors, also TBN and Provident Films. They all came onto the movie and this was the deck. And I think they did such a good job on this deck. It gives it the log, the log. First is the image, then it's the log line. Then it's some pictures, giving them a feel. It's very sci-fi. The movie is obviously very sci-fi. And then they continued with the log line, made it a little longer. And these are all images from other movies, like your question. We took images from other movies that fit our feeling. And then there's just one page I can't go to yet because it's confidential. So I just want to make sure I don't. So I'm going to click. All right. So this is Andrea's and I page with all of our history, that trustworthy people who've made movies. We put this on all of our decks with all the slates of all the films we've made. It's great as it keeps growing and getting bigger and bigger. It looks good. And then we worked with Third Coast Content and their information was on there. And that's as far as I can go with this one because then it gets confidential about numbers. So I can't release the numbers. So
Third
those
Coast
are
is your executive producer.
what?
Third Coast is your executive producer.
Yeah, Third
Okay.
Coast Content is well, kind of. I mean, when we made a joint venture, which means you sign on 50-50, half and half between Andrea and I, Boylan sisters, and Third Coast. So we were actually a 50-50 partnership in producers. The four of us all own equal parts of the movie. We decided we were actually like all a team, but I will say that they did much more of the heavy lifting on the raising of the money. And because it takes a while to recoup your money for my previous films, at that time I was like, I'm kind of running out of investors. So now I could go back to my well because everyone just got all their money back and good news hasn't happened.
Alexandra, is this the one that you have two different posters for?
Oh yeah, that's the one that is right now currently out to be sold to a distribution company.
So we can't see the other poster.
Well, that's not the poster. That was the pitch deck.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay, but I can show you the professional poster that we had made for that movie. This was the one that we paid for and hired a professional poster company to take out. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
That's our poster. Then we worked with a company that changed the poster, but like I said, I don't know. And the other thing is, having posters is never a bad thing, because when we go to, even say Netflix says, I want to buy it, they ask for all your assets and the deliverables. So this poster will still go in because we own it, we paid for it, and it will be an option for Netflix if they wanted to use it. So like, those become assets that go to the distribution company, and you never know. Like when we made Catching Faith, I don't know if I got to this in my last talk, we made 3 posters ourselves that we paid for. It sold off 1 poster. We delivered all 3 posters. They ended up using a different poster for the movie. So we were surprised. They bought off 1 poster and used a different one. So but it's so, to me, it's like the more posters you have, the better for all, because then if they use any of your posters, they can't put that against you,
Right.
your recoupment. So even though Catching Faith 1, they didn't use the poster that they had bought it off of, they still used the poster we gave them. So it's all deliverables. So in the end of the day, they'll get that poster and then they'll go into their marketing room and they'll decide what's the best poster. And nowadays, you're not on the shelves of Walmart anymore. It's not one picture. Netflix, now Netflix shows trailers, but sometimes Netflix just pulls images from your film and they rotate that because they're trying to see what makes people click. So even Catching Faith 1 on Netflix, the pictures were always different every time I go. And I was like, oh, that's weird. They never even used it on Netflix. So it's interesting. Distribution's changing. So anyway, I thought that'd be a good thing for today, because I think this is really pitching, the art of pitching, and your pitch decks are so important for both distribution company and for private investment. You do want to put your best foot forward. Having the most professional pitch deck is good to show. It's just like the poster, it's showing them that you put time into making it look beautiful, that your movie's going to be beautiful. So we now invest in people to make us good pitch decks. In the beginning, we kind of had to do our own, but we were also going to friends and family. So yeah, so we have 15 minutes. Does anybody have any questions? Yay, question.
You said you're going to be pitching it to Netflix, right?
Yeah, not me, but the man who's repping the movies.
Okay. I was going to say, so if the movie's already in the can and it's all done, when you go into Netflix, I mean, why don't they just have someone at Netflix watch the movie? Why does he have to pitch because he can talk about the potential audience? Or?
Well, I mean, first off, everything in this business is relationships. In the past, our sales agent has just sent the movie and we didn't get a deal. So that one of the reasons we went with the person who's repping us is he knows people there, and everything in this business is who you know. So if this person goes into Netflix to their connections where they have made movies together, we have a much better chance of getting picked up by Netflix than just a blind submission from a sales agent where they might not watch it or they might just pass. Everything is who you know. And I have heard lots of different stories of somebody had told me that their movie got pitched to Netflix and it got denied. They pitched it to a different person at Netflix, it got denied. They pitched it to a different person, it got accepted. So it can literally take going to finding, and that's why having a person who knows, I know exactly who to go to with this. I'm not going to talk to that person. I'm not going to talk to that person. This person, there's a million people who work at these companies. So yes. And then Anaya, see, I'm saying your name wrong. I'm sorry. What is your question? You had a question?
Nancy is fine. Thank you.
Beautiful. I'm sorry.
Thanks. Yes, you mentioned that you have materials for each of your movies. A Bible study comes attached to the movies.
Yep.
And that's something that I had in my heart to do, since our movies is a drama and promoting forgiveness and hope. How do you put together those Bible studies for your movies?
How do we write them or distribute them or everything?
Everything.
Okay. So my sister's a clinical licensed social worker. She writes all the companion materials. She's incredible. I don't know how this woman sleeps. She has 2 full-time jobs, kids, and we make movies, and she writes all the devotionals. Wow. She really loves it though. It's her heart. And usually we'll even write them before we make the movie and we give them out to cast and crew on set. It becomes a gift. And then then honestly, we have never made a distribution deal where the books have been included with the movie, which I think is a big missed opportunity. So Andrea self-distributes all of them on Amazon or her website. We usually put it in the end credits. We try to point people to where to get it because it's frustrating that it doesn't go together. Because there's not that, we just had a meeting with WTA, who does a lot of that with books. WTA works with, Overcomer and that to see if they were, but then we learned how much you need the books ahead of time. And there's just a lot of that stuff that we kind of need those people. You kind of need to have that in place before you make the movie.
I think.
But we do have all the books. Andrea sells them on Amazon, and then she sells a lot. Like people buy them, people find them through the movie. And then also on Amazon, if you can get it connected to the movie, I think it says, if you like this, you'll like that, and try to find a way to get Amazon to connect to your book. Like Andrea and I just wrote a YA novel that goes along with Identity Crisis. And this is our first time where we're going to publish a novel for teen girls. That's the movie. And this is going to be a big learning process because we had some meetings with publishing companies, but we need to control when the book comes out because it needs to come out when the movie comes out. And so we might just self-distribute it because we don't want the publishing company to say, well, in a year from now, we're going to put it out. We'll be like, no, if the movie comes out in March, the book needs to come out. So self-distribution is really great with books because you can control it.
Got it. Do you think that since our movie is out, is it too late for us to put together a Bible study?
Absolutely not. You could still put it together and somehow tell your viewer, however you connect to your audience, let them know it exists and find a way. Because you wouldn't be able to put it in the end credits now, but we were just recently talking about writing a novel for Switched, and we were like, we already have a tapped in audience. It'd be great. Just write the novel and try to connect everybody on your Instagram or just tell people it's available.
Awesome.
If it's in your heart, you should do it. That's how we got to Cuba, was because the woman who saw the movie got the book and took the books to Cuba. So you never know what God's going to do with it.
Awesome. One last question though. Is it the same title of the movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
And that's a really good question because I don't think our covers have been the same. And I need to ask Andrea if that became like a legal issue that we couldn't have the covers be the same. But like in this, like with Ben, I don't know what's going to happen with the new movie, but we wanted to make sure it was in the contract that we had the rights to the book. Because sometimes the book rights end up going in with the sale, not companion materials, novels. But we're really hoping we can use the poster because we need to be able to do that. So but I don't think Andrea's have the poster on the thing. I'll have to ask her why that never happened.
Good. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So are you doing any pitching at this point?
Yes. Me still?
Yes.
Yes.
And are they very, like, how are you getting the audience? How are you getting into places to pitch? And how long are those pitches usually? Is it your elevator minute pitch or is it?
So we just had a meeting last week, and I don't know if I can share, but it was with a really big company that we've been trying to get into for a while. We didn't have any pitches ready for this company. We felt like it, of course, they're going to ask you, what do you have?
Right.
And I did do my elevator pitch for what we have. But it was more of a general, like they were willing to meet with us. We would love to work with this company. And it was more of a general, like we found out where the guy was from. He's from New Jersey. We're from Boston. A lot of it is just like getting to know each other in the beginning. Like, and actually it was really lovely because by the end he was like, I've just had a great time talking to you guys. That's what this industry is all about. Yeah. You can have your pitches, but half of it is that they enjoy you. And so I try to go in making sure that at first I'm trying to connect with this human being. Because if we partner, it's like Ben Howard. I love Ben, but when I first met him, we were just seeing, do we like each other? Then we're about to spend a whole year and a half together on a movie. So, but the door was open and they said, go back to your slate and then send us your decks. Actually, he did ask for the decks. So we had a one sheet for one idea. So one sheet, I can maybe even show you guys, but the problem is she's recording this and it's confidential. But you can have a one sheet where it just summarizes your movie real quick with a couple of images. I had that, and we had another pitch deck for another idea. We wrote them an email and we submitted those. So even if you have your logline pitch, having the pitch deck, they won't remember. You need to send that in an email so they can see. And that was kind of more of a general. Does that answer the question? It was a general.
Yeah.
If I know it's for
Can I
one
clarify though, Kelly, are you talking about pitching a screenplay? Or are you talking about pitching a finish? Alexandra, you're talking about pitching your final projects, right?
No, this is just pitching ideas.
Okay.
At that point, I'm just pitching a one sheet of an idea. We don't even have the scripts yet. We're seeing, do you like these scripts? Because if you like them, then we'll go write them and maybe develop it with the company. Sometimes they want to be part of the development and they don't want the finished script. So it all depends. Mostly in the beginning, when you have your first meeting, it could be very much a general where you're just getting to know, what are you looking for? What do you guys want?
So
Yeah.
how do you
Want you to have
find-
this. What?
So how do you find those people? Are they just through contacts that you know, or are you going on IMDb and looking for, how do you find those?
IMDb Pro, Facebook. I found the head of Sony Affirm's information on Facebook and I was like, why not? Wrote him an email and he wrote back and said, come into Sony, let's have a meeting. That was years ago.
Oh,
So
wow.
I have no.
You just aren't, I guess I'm always real nervous. Like, I feel like, okay, I'm not at that level where it's just about being gutsy and seeing if somebody responds, I
Yeah.
guess. And not being afraid of them and their title is what I'm hearing. Am I right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I get nervous too, but
Next question I had was about the numbers. You have somebody else do those numbers, right?
what number, which numbers?
In the pitch decks, all those numbers that you had in your pitch deck, you're not the one who comes up with those line items for the budget, are you?
Oh, no, the budget. Well, I mean, we can do our own budgets, but yeah, we usually, well, actually, John, my partner, he did the budgets for a lot of our movies. He did. And then we would hire a line producer to do or if you know your movie lands in a 1.2, whatever it is, someone will give you a top sheet budget. All it is a top sheet budget. That's all you need. So if you're looking for a $250,000, you could probably ask a friend, do you have an example of a top sheet budget of 250,000? They don't want to see the whole budget. That's like 60 pages.
Oh,
Just
okay.
a top sheet. So I had a movie that I was trying to pitch for 1.5 million. I asked a producer friend, can you give me an example? They gave it to me and I just stuck it right in there because
Okay.
you don't have to make it on your own. Don't reinvent the wheel. Just ask someone for it. And I'll tell you, investors are going to look at how much the producers are being paid right away. So make sure that you do not elevate yourself because they're always like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, we're worth it. But they want to know that it's equally getting correctly distributed.
I have a question about that.
Yeah, me too.
If I get an opportunity to produce a feature, which
Mhm.
could happen, and it's my first feature, should
Yeah.
I take a lower producer fee because I don't have experience, or should I,
It's a really good question. I think that you could definitely do you can take a percentage, a standard producing percentage off of the budget. So whatever you're raising, if you know how much you're raising, you could say, I don't know, we could look at the standard producing salary. It's a percentage. Everything's usually a percentage. My casting director is hired off of a percentage of the budget. So everything is off of a percentage of the budget. So their first question is, how much is your budget? I want to be paid this based on the percentage of the budget.
And for that, when you think,
I
oh,
thought
yeah,
of- sorry.
No, you're fine. I just couldn't hear what you were saying.
I know you.
Oh, I was just saying, so if it's a micro budget, the person might want to ask for a little bit more money. And if it's like a $5 million, $10 million budget, and I don't know, I mean.
So I guess that's a really great, you as the producer are the producer. You can ask for whatever you want. When I started my career, I literally made $5,000 to do Catching Faith, the entire movie. The budget was $75,000. I couldn't take anything away from that movie. I needed to put it all in there. And same with Wish for Christmas. I was able to bump myself to a little bit higher budget for myself. But I think in the beginning of my career, my concern was that I knew that this was the beginning of my career. And I wanted to put the money in front of the camera. Like I said, in one of the other ones, I've given my salary back on things because I'm like, oh, we can't afford that. I'll just I think I probably paid out of pocket for half my movies, because when you're starting off, you know, you're proving it and you want to make the most beautiful movie, and you want to be trustworthy. We are good stewards with our money, and a lot of our investors come back because they see that we are not in this to have a ton of money. We really care about the movies we're making. And if we were going to go after them and say, we want you to believe in what we're doing something, and then I go and take a bunch of money, well, I'm not a very trustworthy person. You know, why would they trust me? So I would be frugal your first one and know that you're learning. And I will say on the top, if they see the producer's line out of a 700,000 is 100,000, they're going to have an issue with why those people are taking such a high. Then they're like, I'm just paying you to buy a car or whatever, you know? Yeah, Kelly.
I have a question with that. So, I mean, I'd love to know any percentage that you can come up with from examples, if you can. And then do you say like there's 4 producers, say like the sample is 15,000, or let's make it easy, 20,000 is for whatever level budget, 20,000 is
very common,
acceptable. Does that mean the 4 producers get 5, you know?
Right. Yeah. That's where having a lot of producers can be a problem. If you can keep your producer smaller, if you don't need a bunch of producers, then yes, that'd be better. I have a friend who was like, you guys have too many producers. You're splitting all the money. It's silly. But most of all of our producers have been a reason, whether they were bringing in money and then they wanted to be a producer, or, you know, I mean, the less amount of producers you can have on a project, the more money you can take from the cut of the percentage. So one thing I've learned too is to ask the questions, what will your job be as a producer? You know, because anyone can say I'm a producer, and it's like, okay, well, what job are you taking to be a producer? Or you know, and what do you know? It's like your question, Jenna, like, if you're just starting off and you're learning, you might need to not take a high salary because you're going to learn. Oh, okay. Like, or, and for my past films, my producers have been amazing. There's a lot of work that everybody's done. It's so much work.
So when you emailed the person at Sony, it was like a general pitch, and did you include like your log line and then do maybe like a one sheet, or did you say I have a couple ideas, we can get together and discuss them, or did you pitch one specific idea?
So yeah, at that time I was pitching switched. So I was definitely trying to get in with Sony Affirm, and I got the meeting and I sat down and we went to coffee and we chatted for a little bit. And then I was able to pitch him my 2 ideas, which at the time was Switched and Greatest Inheritance were my scripts. And he said, great, that sounds awesome. Send them in.
Okay.
So right, you're depending on what meeting you have. Some might be a general meeting. When I went to Lionsgate, somebody connected me to Lionsgate for a very specific reason. I walked in there to pitch them Switched. But then I'm also wanting to build a relationship. I have a connection at Hulu that somebody got me. I walked in, I still talk to this guy 2.5 years later, even though we haven't worked together yet. I am continuing that relationship with my that Hulu person. So, you know, a lot of times you're just always think it might not be this one, but it might be 5 movies from now.
And those you went in and pitched it prior to shooting it, or is that?
Yeah, these are great questions, because you guys, I have only pitched at the script level. Once our movie is done, we have a sales agent who pitches the movie. I don't pitch the finished film to anyone. That's not true. I do to people I know now in the business, but that when it comes to your finished film, you want a sales agent going out there on your behalf, because they don't want to talk to the filmmaker with them. They don't want to say your movie sucks. They're going to say that to a sales agent. When it comes to pitching, the art of pitching tonight is really about at the script level. not at the finished film level. That's a different kind of pitching. And even if I was to call my buddy at Hulu and say, I have a finished film, I want you to help me get it there, I am going to then step aside and the sales agent's coming in, because it doesn't look professional. I learned this when people talk about going to AFM and they're like, I'm going to take my movie to AFM. I learned right away from my sales agent that he was like, that doesn't, right away, they don't think you're legit. It's like they don't want RLJ releasing isn't going to talk to me. They want to talk to the sales agent. That's just what I've experienced. Now I hustle when they're finished, and I will call my connections at PureFlix to watch it, but I step out of it immediately and Ryan gets in immediately.
And what percentage does a sales agent typically take?
I think my sales agent it can be between 15 and 30% depending on your movie. I want to say that Ryan took 30% of Home Sweet Home. And I thought that was a great deal, because 70% of something is something. At the time I had 0. So he also said, it's going to take me a lot to work on this. It's a small movie. For all the work I'm going to do, I need a 30%. But I think you can get some with 15%. I think it just really depends.
And has that come down then as he's worked with you? Has his 30 come down, or did he stay at 30?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Forgetting, because I've done a lot, but he's also the executive producer now. So actually he was such an amazing human being. He would EPR movies for nothing. He never took a salary. He would just take a sales fee. So I'm pretty sure he stayed at the 30%. He should, for all the work that man has done for our movies. I mean, literally half of us just are doing this because we really believe in it, and he's awesome and wonderful. And then wait, you said sale, yeah. What was there? Oh, because has it come down? Yeah, because I have a friend who had CAA rep his movie and it had a bidding war. And I think CAA only took a 5% fee, but that's because it went to Sundance and had a bidding war and they knew it was going to make a lot of money. And so that's the thing. If they know they're already going to make the 5%, they don't have to work hard. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But if they know that they got to pitch this, they want a higher percentage because of all the work it takes. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I was like, man, you only paid your sales agent 5%. He was like, well, yeah, it was already had like Sundance, three huge companies fighting for the movie. That's
when you sell it to a distributor, do you have any connection to it still? Like, do you earn anything, or is it fully sold to the distributor and they have it from there on?
Well, so that's a great question. And that might be our talk next week, because that's a big talk, because that changes according to every movie we've made. It's different. So Home Sweet, Ryan and I talk about this a lot. Home Sweet Home, we did not own very much of that movie in the back end. It was such a small little movie that Ryan was like, take the deal. It'll help your career. And he was right. But when you don't have any cards to play, you can't play any cards. So Home Sweet Home was a low budget, no stars, tiny little movie. And we made a deal and we pretty much don't have much of the back end. Now, on our next movie, Catching Faith with Billingville, and we started having some cards to play. So then Ryan can be like, okay, I'm going to negotiate. And then on Wish for Christmas. So as your career builds, star names give you a lot of leverage because it changes the game for the distribution company, because now they want the movie more and they might negotiate to give you more back end. So yeah, I have a lot more back end on my more recent films than I do on my first films, because we had nothing to leverage. We were just happy to get the distribution deal. That's a great question. It's a good question, because you absolutely should own your movie in the back end. You must own your film in the back. You need to have money in the back end for the investors. I think Home Sweet Home kind of stands alone because it was this $10,000 movie that we were just so flippin' lucky to get sold to RLJ releasing, that we were like, we didn't have any investors on that. There was nothing I had to worry about. It was my own money. And then from then on, you need, Ryan, your sales agent knows you got to recoup money. So
The sales agent works out the deal for your points and,
your sales agent makes your deal for you. Yeah.
okay, so there's no lawyers involved in that point?
Yeah. My sales agent has a lawyer for sure.
Okay, so they don't like, say you have a lawyer as a producer, right, for your
Yeah.
deals.
You could do
So
it.
your sales agent lawyer does those deals. Okay.
Yeah, he had a lawyer. And I always say in my distribution class, if you don't have a sales agent, you better have an amazing entertainment lawyer who's going to look at all those contracts, make sure you're not getting screwed over, making sure that, they have to cap their P&E against you, because they could just say, press and advertising, we spent $700,000 and you'll never see a dime from so having either an amazing entertainment lawyer or amazing sales agent who is fighting for you and making sure the contract is good on your behalf is really important. That's a great question.
Do these same companies that you pitch to, if they just want the finished script, are they the ones that are investing, or are you finding like separate types of investment?
So my only joint venture so far has been with Third Coast Content. All of our other movies were passed on, and I went and raised private investment and made them myself. Then I think because of our track record and they loved the script, Third Coast Content came in, and that was the fastest deal I've ever made in my whole life because all the rest got passed on. I'm like, wait a minute, but it wasn't even that long. We wrote the script and it was picked up by like a month after we wrote it. So that was really exciting. Third Coast loved it, and we did a joint venture. So that's my first time joining with another production company. The script was written. We sent them a pitch deck and a script, and they called us and said, we really like what we're seeing. Let's talk. And then I learned that the partners there were like, we looked at your slate of films and you have a great brand. You have and we want to invest in this brand. So, if I have this whole body of work that is very cohesive, that goes together, that makes sense. He was like, I see that. Let's jump on that. The hustle never ends. You're going to hear 100 no's before you hear the yes. You have to and keep pivoting. How do I change what I'm doing? How do I figure out a new way around this so I can make a movie?
Totally.
Yeah. All right, you guys, we're a little
Thank
over.
you.
If there's any last questions, happy to answer them. Otherwise, bye.